morally dubious about short selling? And are short sellers sort of vigilantes or villains?
Well, obviously, I think they're vigilantes. I find, and I've come across a few villains in my time in the city, virtually all of them are on the long side, falsely promoting stocks. There is far more skullduggery and villainy going on the long side, over-promoting shares, paying people to promote shares, giving people large commissions to promote shares. The whole system is skewed towards asset prices rising. Short sellers have to be a lot more disciplined. The short sellers I know, the successful ones, are mostly relatively intelligent, financially savvy people, because you have to be, otherwise you wouldn't survive as a short seller. So, like the Sino Forest story I told you earlier, I would say short sellers are vigilantes. There may be some occasions where short sellers are act in a villainous manner, and I'm not just saying this to talk my own book. Most short sellers I know are pretty reasonable people, and they're exploring areas that the financial establishment often either willingly ignore or, you know, are too worried about their own commissions to actually dig their noses into. So,
why do you think it solicits such a sort of a negative emotional reaction, do you think?
But for the reasons that you described earlier, if you're if you've got a little oil company that you're long of, and the share price collapses by 75%, and your wife's getting on your back because you're having to cancel your holiday, and you're not able to concentrate at work because you've wiped out, you know, 20% of your capital. Who is to blame? The most easy person to blame are these negative, evil, bear raiders, short sellers, mythical, evil figures who are basically personally trying to destroy you and make your life a misery. And I can quite understand that emotion, but it's just not. It's not the correct emotion for an investor. Investors should be impassionate. I mean, short sellers didn't sort of tell these people to go out and buy these shares. And as I say, the short sellers always get the flack initially, but afterwards it's the management who rightly get the flack. I mean, once the company actually goes bust, nobody blames me, I hope, for having bankrupted Woolworths. It was Woolworths paying too much rent, you know, I don't think I was responsible for the demise of JJB Sports because I was shorting the shares at 10p. But a lot of people blame me at the time for saying I was doing down a proud company. Once it goes bust, of course, it's the management's fault, which is where the blame should arise.
Let's talk about bulletin boards.
Well, as a general point about bulletin boards, you realise just quite how the anonymity of the internet allows the most vituperative and disgraceful language and insults and emotions from, you know, these guys who've never met each other really hating each other, you know, because one's long and one's short. And the kind of the war of words is just, it takes the breath away if you read it in the sort of, you know, cold light of day, the things that people say to each other. If they met on the tube or in a cocktail party or something, they would, I'm sure, be perfectly civil to each other. And I'm sure a lot of these people are perfectly sane and rational human beings in whatever walk of life they're in. But get them into a bulletin board where more often than not they might be losing money or crowing at the fact that someone else is losing money, and they become animals. It's unbelievable how emotionally involved people get.
Have you ever been offended and hurt by it?
Oh, to be honest, sometimes I just can't bring myself to read the more of. I mean, there are certain threads, as they're called, on bulletin boards where I'm sure my name gets bandied around. And I mean, you know, the amount. I mean, take Afrin for an example, and we'll talk about the ADVFN bulletin board. I think, and there are several threads on the subject of Afrin. But what are we today? Thursday. I looked, I think on Monday. I last looked, and then I looked on Tuesday evening, and there had been over 3,000 postings. 3,000 in 24 hours of people. So, you know, apart from anything else, I just haven't got the time to sift through it looking for the insulting references to myself. But if I did, yes, I probably would be offended. You're always offended if someone says that you're a scumbag or you're an evil shorter. Or, you know, my pride is more that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I've got it wrong, that I've missed the point. Yeah, it is quite hurtful. But it's nice to be proved right sometimes. Hopefully more often than not.